The first beams of the morning sun filtered through the gauzy curtains of my bedroom, casting a warm glow that I was yet to appreciate. Today was supposed to be just another Thursday, indistinguishable from the others, if not for the peculiar circumstance I found myself in upon waking. I had moved into this modest, two-story house on the edge of the city only a month ago, seeking solitude after the bustling life I led in the Central District. The peace was a welcome change, but the house, with its echoing halls and empty rooms, often felt too large, too silent for one person. So, I decided to hire a housekeeper, someone who could breathe life into this sprawling space. Her name was Alara. She came highly recommended, with references that spoke of her efficiency and discretion. Alara was not just any housekeeper. She was from Viandra, a planet known for its meticulous people, who were as proficient in technology as they were in household management. Hiring her, I thought, would solve both my need for company and the upkeep of my new home. This morning, however, as I awoke, I found Alara in a most startling position, straddling my chest, her eyes wide with what seemed like a mix of urgency and fear. Her hands were firmly pressing down on my shoulders, and I could feel the slight tremble of her fingers. "Sir, you must listen carefully," she whispered, her voice barely a flutter. "I have detected a substantial leak of xenon gas in the house. My body mass on your chest is activating a biofiltration process in my suit, scrubbing the air you breathe. I had to act quickly." Her explanation washed over me in a haze of confusion and disbelief. How could this be happening? My thoughts were a whirlwind of unanswered questions and burgeoning panic. "I understand this is highly unusual and not acceptable under normal human interactions," Alara continued, her face expressionless, yet her voice tinged with an undercurrent of what I could only interpret as concern. "But please remain calm. I am here to protect you." As the reality of the situation sank in, my initial shock gave way to a rush of gratitude. Alara wasn't just sitting on me out of some bizarre inclination. She was saving my life, her body literally filtering poison from the air around us. "But how did this happen?" I managed to croak, my throat dry, my words laced with the edge of fear. Alara's eyes darted toward the window, then back at me. "It appears to be a malfunction in the house's environmental control system. I will need to perform a full diagnostic once you are safe. For now, please, trust me and try to breathe normally." As I lay there, trying to process the danger I was unknowingly in and the strange yet life-saving method Alara employed, I realized how little I knew about her, her planet, and the vast universe that had brought her to my doorstep. In this quiet morning turned chaotic, I felt a profound sense of vulnerability. A human caught in the web of interstellar complexities, saved by an alien whose heart, it seemed, was tuned to the frequency of compassion. As Alara continued to protect me, her presence a constant weight on my chest, I felt an unexpected bond forming between us, woven through by strands of trust and the raw intimacy of a crisis. This was not how I envisioned my morning, or any morning for that matter, but as I looked into her steady gaze, I found a silent promise, an unspoken understanding that no matter the oddity of our first real interaction, she was here to help, to save, and possibly, to change my life forever. As the morning progressed into a cautious calm, Alara finally lifted herself from my chest, her movements precise and deliberate. The atmosphere in the room felt heavier, the remnants of danger still palpable in the air. She stood beside the bed, her figure silhouetted against the light that now seemed too bright, too stark against the shadow of our ordeal. "I have initiated the emergency protocols," Alara said, her voice steady but her eyes scanning continuously, as if she could visually sift through the layers of air for any lingering threats. "The ventilation system is purging the xenon. It will be safe to move about shortly, but you should remain here for the moment." I nodded, still processing the swiftness with which she had taken control of the situation. My gaze drifted around my bedroom, the familiar objects suddenly seeming foreign, as if the morning's events had draped them in a new, unasked-for context. Alara moved towards the room's control panel, her fingers dancing over the surface with practiced ease. The panel responded with a series of soft beeps and the gentle whir of machinery coming to life. The house's AI had a temporary lapse in sensor function, a rare glitch, but not unheard of in systems integrating Vyandran technology with human architecture, she explained without turning, her attention fixed on recalibrating the settings. Why didn't the AI wake me? I asked, my voice edged with a blend of curiosity and lingering fear. It tried, but the gas had already begun to affect your central nervous system. You were slipping into unconsciousness as I entered the room. She paused, her back still to me. I apologize for the intimate nature of my intervention. Vyandran methods can seem intrusive by human standards. Her words hung in the air, a delicate acknowledgement of the cultural chasm that could have widened into a rift but hadn't, thanks to her quick thinking. I sat up, feeling steadier, the fear ebbing away, replaced by a burgeoning intrigue about this competent, mysterious being who had, quite literally, become my lifeline. Elara, how did you know what to do? Is this something you've had to do before? I ventured, eager to understand more about her. She turned, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes, an emotion that didn't quite match her composed exterior. On Vyandra, we are trained extensively in crisis management, though I never anticipated using such training here on Earth. A slight smile touched her lips. You humans live more peacefully than our intelligence reports suggested. Her comment struck a chord, a humorous note in the midst of chaos, and I couldn't help but laugh, a short, genuine burst of sound that seemed to echo too loudly in the quiet room. Ilara's smile widened just a fraction, and she joined in, her laughter a softer, more melodic counterpoint to my own. In that brief, shared moment, the walls between two vastly different worlds seemed thinner, more translucent. As the air cleared, both literally and metaphorically, Ilara guided me through the house, showing me the intricate network of systems that made it more than just a place of residence but a mesh of earthly and Vyandran technology, a blend of her world and mine, coexisting under one roof. The morning had started with a bizarre, terrifying event, but as we walked through the corridors, checking each room to ensure no corner of my home harbored hidden dangers, a different sort of education unfolded. Ilara didn't just share technical explanations, she imparted glimpses of her culture, her people's hopes, and their reasons for venturing so far from their own star system. By the time we returned to the living room, the crisis was not just averted but had transformed into an unexpected bridge, an opening to a universe of possibilities where fear had given way to fascination, and a life-saving intervention had sown the seeds of an unlikely friendship. As we settled into the rhythm of our newly shared existence, the initial awkwardness that followed our strange encounter began to dissolve. Each day, Ilara would perform her duties with a quiet efficiency, while I observed her, increasingly fascinated by the alien yet comforting presence she brought into my home. Her movements were fluid, almost dance-like, a stark contrast to the rigid motions typical of human maids I had employed in the past. One evening, as the sunset threw a golden hue across the living room, Ilara approached me with an unusual hesitance. "There is something I require your assistance with," she started, her voice carrying a tremor that hinted at urgency. "It's about the communication array in the attic. I believe it's been sending signals without my command, possibly a residual setup from the previous owner." Intrigued by her concern and the unexpected mention of a communication array I knew nothing about, I followed her to the attic. The space was cramped, filled with the previous occupants' discarded memories and dusty technological relics. Ilara moved towards a sleek, metallic device, its surfaces etched with symbols that gleamed faintly in the dim light. "This device," she explained, "is capable of interstellar communication. It's been active, and I fear it may have sent signals to Vyandra without my authorization. This could be problematic." "Why would that be an issue?" I asked, puzzled by the implications of her words. "Unscheduled communications are often a sign of distress or espionage among my people," she replied, her hands hovering over the device. "If my government believes I am in danger or compromising our protocols, they might take drastic measures." The gravity of her words hung heavily between us. "What kind of measures are we talking about?" I pressed, my concern deepening. "Retrieval or elimination," she stated flatly, her face expressionless as she absorbed the shock that must have been evident on mine. "It's standard protocol to prevent technology and knowledge leaks." Determined to prevent any harm coming to Ilara, I watched closely as she worked to deactivate the device. Her fingers moved with deft precision, but her brow was furrowed, a sign of the immense concentration she was investing in the task. After several tense minutes, she stepped back, a sigh of relief escaping her lips. "It's disabled now, but we need to be vigilant. I'll monitor for any signs of an inbound vessel or further unsanctioned activity," she informed me, her demeanor shifting back to her usual calm efficiency. In the days that followed, I noticed a change in Ilara. She seemed more guarded, often pausing in her tasks to check the data pads or scan the skies through the windows. Her vigilance was a constant reminder of the danger that lurked, unseen but palpable. One late afternoon, as we shared a quiet meal, the air between us filled with the soft clinks of cutlery and the unspoken thoughts swirling in our minds, Ilara finally broke the silence. "I have been considering teaching you about Vyandran technology," she offered, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that underscored the seriousness of her proposal. "In case I am no longer here, you would need to understand how to manage the technology in this house." The possibility of her sudden departure clawed at my chest with a sharp pang. "I'd like that," I responded, forcing a steadiness into my voice that I didn't feel. "Not because you might leave, but because I want to understand your world, as you've come to understand mine." And so, our evenings transformed into sessions of shared knowledge and mutual discovery. Ilara taught me the basics of Vyandran technology, her explanations detailed and methodical, ensuring I grasped the complexities of her advanced tech. Through her teachings, I began to see not just the mechanics but the philosophy of her people, a society that thrived on precision, efficiency, and deep respect for the cosmos. As I learned, I couldn't help but marvel at the depth of trust that had grown between us, a trust that was both a shield against potential threats and a bridge over the vast cultural divide that separated us. It was a bond forged in crisis but strengthened in the quiet moments of learning and understanding, a testament to the unexpected paths life could take when one was open to the unknown. The days lengthened into weeks, and the constant pulse of fear that had initially gripped us began to subside, replaced by a routine that felt almost normal, if one could ever call living with an alien normal. Ilara's teachings had not only imbued me with a newfound respect for Vyandran culture but also equipped me with skills that felt akin to wielding magic, given the advanced nature of the technology at my fingertips. One evening, as we delved deeper into the programming of the environmental controls, a system far more intricate than any Earth-based technology one had encountered, Ilara paused, her gaze fixating on a readout that flickered unexpectedly. "This is unusual," she murmured, her fingers pausing in their usual rhythmic dance across the holographic interface. "There seems to be a recursive code embedded deep within the system, not of Vyandran origin." Her revelation sent a chill down my spine. Could this be another leftover from the previous owner, or something more sinister? Ilara looked up, her eyes narrowing in thought. "It's possible it's benign, a forgotten piece of programming. But given the circumstances, we cannot take chances. We need to trace this code, understand its purpose." Together, we embarked on a digital excavation, tracing the layers of code like archaeologists sifting through the sands of time. The process was slow, meticulous, and fraught with the tension of what we might uncover. Hours slipped by, marked only by the shifting lights of the interface and the soft hum of the house settling around us. Finally, Ilara leaned back, her expression somber. "It's a surveillance code," she announced, her voice a low mix of anger and betrayal. "Someone has been monitoring everything. This goes beyond simple house management." The implication of her words was clear and alarming. We were potentially being watched, our every move scrutinized by unknown eyes. The invasion of privacy was profound, disturbing on a level that made my skin crawl. "We need to dismantle this immediately," I said, my resolve hardening. "Can we trace who's behind it?" Ilara nodded, her demeanor shifting into a mode I had come to recognize as her battle stance. "Yes, but it will require us to access some of the more secured Vyandran networks. It's risky but necessary." With a shared look of determination, we set about breaking down the surveillance program. Ilara guided me through the complex web of Vyandran cybersecurity, her expertise shining through in the deft way she navigated the perilous digital landscape. As we worked, the lines between student and teacher blurred. We were partners, equals in a fight against an unseen adversary. Each barrier we broke down brought a mix of triumph and the sobering realization of how deep the tendrils of surveillance had embedded themselves within the house's network. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, we isolated the source of the surveillance. A remote server located off-planet, its origins murky and unsettling. This isn't just spying, Ilara concluded, her face grim. This is preparation for something bigger. We've stumbled upon just the tip of the iceberg. The weight of her words settled over us like a cloak, heavy and ominous. We sat back, surrounded by the glow of the dismantled code scattered across the interface, a digital battlefield strewn with the remnants of our efforts. We've made it safe for now, Ilara said, breaking the heavy silence. But we need to stay vigilant. Whoever planted this code knows too much about us. As we powered down the systems, the house felt different, as if it too had sensed the shift in our reality. No longer just a place of refuge or learning, it had become our fortress, a bastion against the encroaching shadows of a conspiracy that reached beyond the stars. In that moment, I realized that our bond, forged in the fires of crisis and curiosity, would now be our greatest defense in whatever challenges lay ahead. In the aftermath of our discovery, Ilara and I implemented a series of countermeasures, transforming the house into a veritable stronghold of privacy and security. Her familiarity with Vyandran defensive technology proved invaluable, enabling us to erect digital barriers that were both intricate and impenetrable. Despite these precautions, the air between us was thick with the tension of unseen threats, a silent acknowledgement that our actions might have repercussions we couldn't yet foresee. Late one night, while reviewing the security protocols, Ilara suddenly stiffened, her attention snapped to the monitor displaying live feeds from the perimeter cameras. "Something's approaching," she said, her voice low and urgent. On the screen, the shadows of the late hour seemed to move, coalescing into the form of a vehicle stopping just beyond the gate. "We need to see who it is without revealing ourselves," I suggested, my mind racing through the possibilities of who might have discovered our location. Nodding, Ilara initiated a sequence that projected the camera feeds onto a larger screen, enhancing the images with a precision that made even the night seem like day. The vehicle was nondescript, but the efficiency with which it had approached suggested a familiarity with the area that was unsettling. "Can you tell if they're sending any signals, any communication back to their origin?" I asked, my gaze not leaving the screen. After a few moments of intense scrutiny, Ilara replied, "No outgoing signals. It's as if they want to keep this meeting off the radar. That could mean they're here to negotiate, or to ensure no traces of their visit." With a mutual understanding, we decided that Ilara would confront the visitor. Her capabilities would provide her a better chance of handling any unforeseen complications. I watched through the cameras as she stepped outside, her posture calm yet assertive, the embodiment of controlled strength. The car door opened, and a figure emerged, stepping into the floodlit area covered by our cameras. The visitor was tall, humanoid but with subtle features that screamed non-terrestrial, slightly elongated limbs, a gait that was fluid yet unnervingly precise. As they faced Ilara, a brief exchange took place, their voices too low for the microphones to catch. Moments later, Ilara returned, her expression unreadable. "They are a Vyandran envoy," she explained once inside. "They weren't sent by the government but by a private faction interested in the technologies integrated into this house. They want the surveillance code." "The one we dismantled?" I clarified, trying to piece together the implications. "Yes. It seems it was part of a larger scheme to collect data not just on Vyandrans but on human responses to alien technologies. This faction believes it can leverage this data to gain political power back on Vyandra." The realization that our home had been a cog in a political machine was jarring, to say the least. "What did you tell them?" I asked, my concern deepening. I informed them that the code was no longer functional and that any attempt to reinstate it or harm us would be met with significant resistance, Ilara stated firmly, her determination clear. I may have also made it clear that we are not isolated and that we have the means to defend ourselves. Watching her, I was struck by her resolve. The way her presence seemed to fill the room with a sense of security and purpose. What do we do now? I queried, aware that the situation had escalated beyond what either of us could have anticipated. We prepare, Ilara responded simply. We continue to strengthen our defenses, both digital and otherwise. We also need to consider reaching out to allies, both here on Earth and possibly on Viandra. If this faction is as powerful as they believe, we won't be able to handle this alone. The days that followed were a blur of activity. We fortified our digital fortifications, set up contingency plans, and established lines of communication with potential allies. Through it all, the bond between Ilara and me grew stronger, a testament to our shared commitment to safeguarding not just our home but each other. As we stood side by side, watching the sun dip below the horizon from the safety of our technologically fortified haven, I realized that this partnership was no longer just about survival. It had become about standing together, facing whatever the universe might throw our way, with the unwavering resolve to emerge unscathed. The ensuing weeks were marked by a rigorous regime of enhancements and drills, the house slowly morphing into a bastion of security that could rival any off-world fortress. Ilara's expertise was central to these preparations, her hands as adept at configuring security protocols as they were at reassuring me with a subtle squeeze of the shoulder when the weight of our situation felt overwhelming. Our surveillance system, now significantly upgraded, picked up an anomaly one cool evening. The screens in our makeshift control room flickered momentarily as Ilara rapidly keyed in commands to isolate the disturbance. It's a cloaked drone, small, likely just for reconnaissance, but it's employing a sophisticated stealth mode. Someone's getting impatient, she noted, her voice tinged with a mix of annoyance and admiration for the technology being used against us. Working together with seamless coordination, we managed to capture the drone, a device no larger than a book but packed with enough tech to be a serious spy tool. Ilara dismantled it with surgical precision, extracting its data core. We might be able to trace its origin, find out who is so interested in us, she mused as she worked. The analysis of the drone's core revealed a web of data transactions that led back to a shadowy group on Viandra, confirming Ilara's suspicions about the private faction. But there was more. The connections branched out, implicating entities on several other planets, indicating a network much larger and more complex than a single political faction. This is an interstellar conspiracy, possibly with roots in multiple galactic sectors. They're not just after us, they're after something bigger, something that might be affecting countless others, Ilara concluded, her eyes reflecting the gravity of our discovery. Our strategy shifted from defensive to investigative as we dug deeper into the network. Each piece of data we uncovered revealed the scale of the operation, a mosaic of greed and power that spanned worlds. Despite the danger, our resolve hardened. We were no longer just protecting our home, but potentially exposing a threat that could destabilize regions of space. During our investigations, we also managed to establish discreet contact with a faction within the Viandran government that was sympathetic to our plight and opposed to the conspirators. They provided us with additional resources and intelligence, bolstering our efforts to not only defend ourselves but also to take the fight to those threatening us. One afternoon, as we were reviewing the latest batch of data, Ilara paused, her expression thoughtful. We need to consider going public with what we've found. The right exposure could rally support and perhaps even deter our adversaries from moving against us directly. The idea was risky. Exposure meant making ourselves a bigger target, but it also meant shedding light on the shadows that sought to envelop us. After lengthy discussions, weighing every possible outcome, we decided it was worth the risk. The next few days were spent preparing a detailed dossier of our findings, ready to be released to the public through multiple channels. The day we decided to go public arrived with a sense of inevitability. We sat together, our fingers hovering over the send button. Once we do this, there's no turning back, I said, looking over at Ilara. Her nod was firm, her eyes resolute. Then let's make sure they can't ignore us, she replied. We pressed the button together, sending ripples across the network that would soon grow into waves. The information spread quickly, watched by millions, igniting debates and investigations that would reach far beyond the confines of our fortified home. As we monitored the reactions, a sense of accomplishment mingled with the adrenaline of anticipation. We had shifted the balance, cast light into the darkest corners of interstellar politics. Whatever came next, we were ready, our alliance stronger and more determined than ever. The release of our findings set the galaxy abuzz. Across countless systems, feeds lit up with the news, and suddenly, the eyes of numerous civilizations were on us. In this newfound spotlight, Ilara and I found ourselves both heroes and targets, our lives thrust into a precarious balance between acclaim and danger. The backlash from our adversaries was swift and severe. Mere days after the dossier went public, we detected a series of coordinated cyberattacks aimed at undermining our credibility and hacking our systems. Ilara's preparations, however, proved their worth as each attempt was rebuffed with a countermeasure more sophisticated than the last. We need to be proactive now, Ilara decided, her gaze fixed on the digital map displaying the network activity. It's not enough to defend. We need to dismantle their capabilities, piece by piece. Her proposal led us to form a small but potent team composed of allies from her home planet and a few trusted individuals from Earth. This team worked in shifts, coordinating our defense and launching strategic strikes against the infrastructure we had identified as belonging to the conspiracy. During this period, our home transformed into a command center. Screens and data streams covered walls, and discussions about digital warfare mixed with quick, shared meals that served more as fuel than as culinary experiences. Amidst this chaos, the bond between Ilara and me deepened, each challenge forging trust and understanding that transcended our different origins. One late night, while analyzing incoming data, Ilara paused, a look of concern crossing her features. "They're adapting faster than I anticipated," she noted, pointing to a series of encrypted messages we had intercepted. "They've started to employ quantum encryption, making it harder to intercept future communications." Quantum encryption wasn't insurmountable, but it required significant resources to crack, a fact that didn't escape either of us. "We need a quantum decryptor. It's the only way to stay one step ahead," I suggested, aware of the enormity of what I was proposing. Ilara nodded in agreement. "I know where we can get one, but it's not going to be easy or safe." Her plan involved a covert operation to a facility known for its cutting-edge quantum computing research, located on a neutral moon where the laws were lax, and the security, while tight, was not impenetrable. The risk was significant, but the potential reward compelled us to agree to the mission. Preparations were meticulous, every detail scrutinized and every contingency planned for. When we finally embarked on the mission, it was with a clear understanding of the stakes. The journey to the moon was tense, the silence of space around our ship a stark contrast to the storm of activity within. Arriving at the facility, we executed our plan with clinical precision. Ilara and I, along with two others from our team, infiltrated the premises under the guise of researchers attending a conference. Once inside, we split up, each moving to secure various parts of the operation. The tension was palpable, each moment stretched thin with the possibility of discovery. After what felt like hours, we regrouped, the quantum decryptor securely in our possession. But just as we were about to make our escape, alarms blared, echoing through the corridors. "They know we're here," Ilara said tersely, her voice calm despite the escalating situation. The escape was harrowing, a frantic dash to our rendezvous point, where our pilot awaited. Blaster fire and shouts filled the air, the chaos of our departure a stark contrast to the stealth of our arrival. Once safely aboard our ship, the adrenaline that had fueled us gave way to a mix of relief and exhaustion. As we set course back to Earth, I glanced at Ilara, her face illuminated by the glow of the ship's controls. In that moment, the magnitude of our journey, the risks we'd taken, and the battles still ahead seemed to solidify into a resolve that was unbreakable. "We did it," I said, the weight of those words heavy with both victory and the anticipation of challenges yet to come. "Yes, we did," Ilara replied, a smile breaking through the intensity of the moment. "Now, let's see what secrets this decryptor can unveil." Back at our fortified home, the installation of the quantum decryptor marked a significant turning point. The device, a sleek console of gleaming metal and pulsing lights, hummed with potential as Elara configured it to interface with our existing systems. The process was intricate, each adjustment critical to harnessing the decryptor's capabilities without exposing us to new vulnerabilities. The first test will be crucial, Elara warned, her fingers poised over the control panel. If this works, we'll be able to intercept and decrypt their communications in real time. We'll know their moves before they make them. The tension in the room was palpable as she initiated the decryptor. Screens flickered to life, streams of data cascading across them in a flow of unintelligible codes that gradually began to resolve into coherent messages. It was like watching a language evolve in fast forward, a once cryptic script transforming into clear sentences and directives. It's working, I breathed, hardly daring to believe the wealth of information now at our fingertips. Elara nodded, her eyes scanning the data. Look here, she pointed to a transmission detailing a meeting between key conspirators. They're planning to consolidate their control over the mining operations on Tyrannis. It's a move to fund their next phase. Armed with this knowledge, we plotted our next steps. The data allowed us to understand the scope and scale of the conspiracy's infrastructure, revealing weak points and opportunities for sabotage. But beyond tactical advantages, the decryptor offered something more, a deeper understanding of our enemy's culture and motivations. In the following days, we leveraged this newfound insight. I took on the role of a strategist, mapping out a campaign that would disrupt the conspirators' operations while Elara led the technical efforts, her expertise crucial in navigating the technological maze that underpinned our adversaries' network. Our actions were not without consequences. The conspirators, sensing the threat we posed, escalated their efforts to locate and neutralize us. Attacks on our digital defenses became more frequent and sophisticated, a relentless siege that tested every protocol and safeguard we had in place. Despite these challenges, the decryptor continued to prove its worth, enabling us to stay one step ahead. We intercepted orders, rerouted funds, and exposed collaborators, each move further eroding the conspiracy's foundation. During one late-night session, as we pored over the latest batch of decrypted messages, Elara paused, a complex expression crossing her face. This message is from a high-ranking official on Viandra. It's not just about logistics or resources, it's personal. He's scared, not of losing power, but of something he refers to only as the reckoning. The reckoning? I echoed, puzzled by the term. Do you know what he's referring to? She shook her head. It's not a concept I'm familiar with, but it suggests there's more at stake here than just political maneuvering. This is about belief, a cause for which they're willing to risk everything. Understanding the ideological underpinnings of our foes added a new layer of complexity to our struggle. It wasn't just a battle against a cabal seeking power, it was a clash against deeply ingrained beliefs that drove them to extreme actions. As we delved deeper into this aspect, our mission evolved. It was no longer sufficient to merely disrupt and dismantle. We needed to understand and possibly counteract the narrative that fueled the conspiracy. This required a delicate balance of force and diplomacy, of action and understanding. Elara and I spent hours discussing the best approach to this nuanced battlefield, our conversations stretching into the early hours of the morning. We were no longer just allies but thinkers and philosophers, wrestling with questions of morality and ethics as we plotted our course through the murky waters of interstellar politics. This is about more than survival or victory, Elara mused as we watched the sunrise from our command center one morning. It's about shaping the future, about deciding what kind of universe we want to live in. Her words resonated deeply, anchoring our resolve as we prepared for the challenges ahead. With each decoded message and each thwarted plan, we were slowly but surely carving a path toward not just peace but a lasting change across the stars. As our understanding deepened, the strategic engagements against our adversaries became more targeted and effective. We had managed to create a ripple effect, with each operation not only disrupting their immediate plans but also sowing seeds of doubt among their ranks. Elara's ability to predict and counter their tactics with almost prescient accuracy had become our greatest weapon. However, with increased success came increased risk. It wasn't long before we detected a coordinated effort aimed directly at our stronghold. They're not just probing defenses anymore, Ilara noted one evening, her eyes locked on the shifting patterns of data on the screen. This is a full-scale assault. They're using everything they've got. Preparing for the onslaught required a rapid mobilization of all our resources. We fortified our digital perimeters and prepared countermeasures that ranged from misinformation campaigns to direct hacks into their command systems. Ilara was in her element, orchestrating our defenses with a conductor's precision. The attack came at dawn. Waves of cyber assaults tested every layer of our security. Each wave was meticulously crafted to exploit potential weaknesses, but Ilara's preparations held firm. Our counterattacks were just as fierce, exploiting the delays and confusion our defenses caused in their ranks. In the midst of this digital warfare, a critical piece of intercepted communication revealed the location of a meeting between the conspirators' leaders. This could be the break we've been looking for, I said, considering the implications. If we can get to them, perhaps we can end this once and for all. Ilara hesitated, her expression tense. It's a significant risk. This meeting could be heavily guarded, or worse, a trap. But if we don't act, we might not get another chance, I countered, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on us. After a moment of intense deliberation, we decided to take the risk. The plan was simple: infiltrate the meeting, gather incriminating evidence, and if possible, capture the leaders. Such a bold move required precise execution, as any mistake could be catastrophic. The operation was set for the next day. Under the cover of darkness, we approached the secluded location, a nondescript building on a remote outpost that seemed too ordinary for such a high-stakes meeting. Our approach was silent, every movement calculated. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Ilara and I, along with a small team, moved through the shadows, avoiding patrols and using every tool at our disposal to remain undetected. Reaching the meeting room, we used a sophisticated cloaking device to observe the conspirators unnoticed. The room was filled with a mix of species, each member arguing their strategies and plans. The dialogue was heated, with mentions of expanding their influence and crushing any opposition. Recording this, we knew we had secured valuable evidence that could expose and dismantle their network. Just as we prepared to retreat, an unexpected anomaly in our cloaking device gave us away. The room erupted into chaos, blaster fire ricocheting off the walls as we made a desperate bid for escape. The escape was harrowing, a frantic blend of evasion and confrontation. By the time we reached our extraction point, we were battered but alive, clutching the data that could turn the tide in our favor. Back at our base, we wasted no time disseminating the recordings to our allies and broadcasting them across the network. The impact was immediate and profound. The conspirators' credibility crumbled, their alliances and agreements dissolving in the face of public outrage and legal actions. In the following days, the tide turned decisively in our favor. Arrests were made, assets seized, and the once mighty conspiracy found itself being picked apart. The battle was far from over, but we had struck a decisive blow that shifted the balance of power. As we monitored the developments, a sense of cautious optimism took hold. We had acted boldly and succeeded, but the true measure of victory would be in the lasting peace and stability that could now be built on the ruins of conspiracy and strife. In the aftermath of our revelations, the galaxy underwent a seismic shift. The public exposure of the conspirators not only dismantled their operations but also ignited a broader dialogue about governance, transparency, and the role of advanced technologies in society. Across planets and systems, governments and citizens alike grappled with these questions, each seeking to redefine their place in a newly awakened galaxy. For Ilara and me, the victory was bittersweet. We had achieved what seemed impossible, but at a cost that was only beginning to reveal itself. Our stronghold, once a quiet sanctuary, had transformed into a hub of activity, part fortress, part think tank, where strategies and policies were debated day and night. We've changed the course of history, but now we must help guide it, Ilara observed one evening as we looked out over the now peaceful landscape surrounding our home. Her words resonated deeply, reflecting the responsibility that now weighed on us. we decided to establish a formal advisory body, the Galactic Integrity Network, dedicated to ensuring the fair use of technology and the enforcement of ethical governance. The network brought together experts from various fields and races, all united by a common goal of fostering stability and justice across the stars. Our roles evolved naturally. Ilara became a key figure in technological oversight, her extensive knowledge and experience proving invaluable in setting standards and safeguards. I took on diplomatic responsibilities, leveraging the respect and authority we had gained to mediate disputes and build alliances. Despite the progress, the remnants of the old conspiracy still lurked in the shadows, a constant reminder of the fragility of peace. We encountered sporadic resistance, hidden cells of loyalists who clung to the old ways and threatened to destabilize the fragile new order. Dealing with these threats required a delicate balance of force and diplomacy, a dance we had become all too familiar with. During one such negotiation on a volatile border planet, a breakthrough came unexpectedly. A former conspirator, moved by the changes and our persistent efforts, reached out, offering insider information that could lead to the final dissolution of the remaining cells. The meeting was tense, fraught with the potential for betrayal, but ultimately, it marked the turning point in rooting out the last of the resistance. With each successful operation, the galaxy began to stabilize, the new norms taking root and gradually becoming part of the societal fabric. It was a slow process, filled with challenges and setbacks, but also with victories that confirmed the value of our continued efforts. One night, as we observed a newly established peace summit from a distance, Ilara turned to me, a rare expression of contentment on her face. "Look at what we've started," she said, her gaze sweeping over the scene. "A galaxy that speaks and listens, that seeks to understand before it judges." I nodded, feeling the enormity of our journey. And to think, it all began with a strange and terrifying morning when I woke up to find you saving my life in such an unconventional way. Ilara laughed, the sound mingling with the cool night air. Yes, a morning that changed both our lives and, ultimately, many others. As we stood together, it was clear that while our initial battle was over, our work was far from done. The galaxy was still healing, still learning to navigate the complexities of a new era. But as we looked forward, we did so with the knowledge that our combined strengths, her technological prowess and my diplomatic acumen, had set these changes in motion. With a sense of quiet resolve, we prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that our partnership, born of crisis and cemented in struggle, would continue to be our greatest strength in the uncharted territories of this new, hopeful galaxy.